In the quiet, suburban town of Millfield, something was lurking in the shadows, something sinister and twisted. It was a child, a small boy with dark hair and cold, lifeless eyes. He wandered the streets at night, looking for his next victim. And when he found them, he would crawl under their bed, wait for them to fall asleep, and then attack. No one knew why the boy did what he did. Some said he was possessed by a demon, while others believed he had been cursed. But one thing was certain, no one was safe from him. The first victim was a young woman who lived alone. She woke up one morning to find that all 10 of her toenails had been removed. She screamed and cried, but it was too late. The boy had already vanished into the night. The second victim was an old man who lived in a nursing home. He didn't even know what had happened to him until the nurse found him in the morning, bleeding and in shock. People in Millfield began to take precautions. They locked their doors at night, set traps under their beds, and even slept with weapons by their sides. But nothing seemed to stop the boy. One night, a family of 4 went to bed, feeling safe and secure. But they didn't know that the boy was already in their house. He crawled under the bed of the youngest child, a little girl with curly hair and rosy cheeks. And then he struck. The family woke up to screams and cries, but it was too late. The little girl's toenails were gone, and the boy was nowhere to be found. The police searched for him, but he seemed to disappear without a trace. People in Millfield were afraid to sleep at night, afraid that they would be the next victim. And then, one day, the boy returned. He walked into the police station, his eyes glazed and his hands covered in blood. He didn't say a word, but everyone knew what he had done. They locked him up, but they couldn't erase the memory of the horrors he had inflicted on the town. And to this day, people in Millfield still talk about the child who bites people's toenails off in their sleep, and they shudder with fear. Years passed, and the memory of the boy who terrorized Millfield began to fade. People went back to their normal lives, and the town returned to its quiet, suburban routine. But one day, the boy returned. Only now, he was a teenager, tall and gaunt, with haunted eyes and a permanent scowl on his face. The news of his release from the psychiatric hospital spread quickly through the town. Some people were afraid, while others were curious. They wondered what had happened to him, and if he was still the same twisted monster they remembered. The boy, whose name was David, moved back into his childhood home. The house had been abandoned since his arrest, and it was now in a state of disrepair. But David didn't seem to care. He spent most of his time alone, rarely leaving the house except to buy food or go for walks in the woods. People in Millfield started to notice strange things happening again. Toenails were going missing, just like before. At first, they thought it was just a coincidence, but then more and more people reported the same thing. The police investigated, but they couldn't find any evidence linking David to the crimes. He was always alone, and there was never any sign of forced entry. As time went on, David's behavior became more erratic. He would scream and shout at night, and sometimes he would wander the streets, muttering to himself. One day, a group of teenagers saw him walking in the woods, and they decided to follow him. They watched as he disappeared into an old abandoned house on the outskirts of town. They approached cautiously, peering through the windows. What they saw made their blood run cold. David was sitting in the middle of the room, surrounded by jars filled with toenails. He was muttering to himself, rocking back and forth. The teenagers ran back to town, and they told everyone what they had seen. The police searched the abandoned house, and they found David inside, surrounded by the jars of toenails. They took him back to the psychiatric hospital, where he was placed under heavy sedation. The town breathed a sigh of relief, but they knew that the memory of David and his twisted obsession would haunt them for a long time to come.